What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you an update about Superfuse, a game that released in early access at the start of 2023 that appears to be dead. However, I do think the situation gets a little stranger than that as I started to dig into it, which is why I decided to bring you this video. Now, these are, I would say, probably my least favorite kinds of videos to make, but I do think they need to be made. As someone who reviews and plays a ton of games for people, I think it's important to call out when a situation surrounding a game becomes, let's say, bizarre, for lack of a better word. Now, to give a short explanation, last year at the beginning of 2023, at the end of January to be specific, Superfuse released into early access. This is an indie ARPG that puts you in the role of genetically altered superheroes in a sort of comic book style that sees us destroying all sorts of enemies, plagued by corruption that has since ravaged Earth, leading to the forming of these genetically altered superheroes to begin with. In addition to that premise, it also sees things like fusing your skills, which allows you to alter them in all sorts of fun ways and adjust exactly how they operate, which had a fair bit of fun build diversity attached to it. So off to a promising start, but like most early access games that have any amount of multiplayer, it didn't work very well on launch, and it also had a fair few, I would say, things that needed to be ironed out before anyone could consider it a really great game to play. Pretty standard early access stuff. What follows were a couple of updates, then some dev diaries, followed by more or less radio silence outside of their Discord until present day. Now, the last update this game received was actually all the way back in March. We're actually coming up on the 1-year anniversary of this game getting a patch, as March 1st, 2023 was the last one. Following this, according to a few dev diaries released over on Steam, Stitchheads Entertainment, the developers, were focusing on incorporating everyone's feedback into the game, which was posted in July of 2023. We'd go on to receive 3 more of those dev diaries detailing things that were supposed to be added to the game, such as the new act that will take place on Earth itself, a customizable hub area that's supposed to unlock after the main campaign, and then detailing some upcoming itemization changes, which was the last update in last October, so roughly 4 months ago. Now, what's interesting is that some of these changes were slated for a fall release back in 2023. Obviously, we've missed that by a substantial amount, and nothing has been said since. So, in many ways, I think it's easy to just write the game off right there and call it a dead game. It's hardly the first early access title that's ever happened to, and I certainly don't blame anybody for thinking that, because realistically, I think it's the safe bet. I would not pay for this game right now, and I think it's pretty obvious things aren't going well at the bare minimum. Now, the reason I say it gets a little more interesting than that is because this game happens to be published by Raw Fury, which is a well-known indie publisher that is behind a fair few of my own favorite indie titles, such as Sable or Dome Keeper, even though I'm not very good at that one. So the situation around this game is unusual for them, I would say, which prompted me to do a bit more digging, which led me to the game's Discord, where a Raw Fury employee, as recently as just like yesterday, the 26th of February from the time of this video, has been responding to people. Now, most of these responses basically mention that they don't have anything to share, though development is continuing. Now, what makes the responses in this Discord interesting to me, along with the dev diaries that they've previously released, is that it seems like, for some reason, both Raw Fury and Stitchheads Entertainment are in a position where simply putting out a short statement explaining what's going on and why or when to expect updates, etc., is out of the question, which is obviously terrible PR. But we are then left to wonder why. Now, unfortunately, that is not a question I have answers for, though I can offer a few guesses. Though, as of right now, just to be clear, regardless of all the speculation I'm about to give you, Superfuse has not released an update or a patch in almost a year now, soon to be over a year. The devs and Raw Fury have stopped any meaningful communication, which means unless this next patch comes out and completely overhauls the game and turns it into a masterpiece, it's simply not worth anybody's time due to the incredibly poor communication. Lengthy periods in early access, as well as just the very influx nature of it, are just the way early access goes. That's part of the process. But if in that process you fail to communicate with the people who have given you money with even just the bare bones basics of what is going on, then obviously people aren't going to trust you or continue to engage with this in any meaningful way. in many respects, I would consider this game dead until we see proof otherwise. But all in all, the situation simply makes me wonder what is happening here. So speculation-wise, I would hazard a guess that there's probably some contractual obligation here that is prompting both parties to refuse from the most basic elements of communication. Because according to this person on their Discord, the development team is reading through messages, is aware of all this situation, and yet in spite of that, there isn't any sort of statement whatsoever, which to me screams some sort of NDA or contractual obligation that precludes exactly that. It's also interesting that Raw Fury seems to be doing most of the talking. Even the dev diaries seem to be written in tandem with them. But bottom line, this is a mess. Because even taking everything at face value and assuming nothing's wrong, they have simply missed their targets for releasing previous patches, which again was supposed to be last fall, then you've inadvertently created a situation where when you do finally put something out, everyone's just going to be angry about it. And likely pretty unforgiving if it's anything short of an entire overhaul. And the flip side of that, the chances that this is a full-blown overhaul to the game that will make substantial changes and turn it into some sort of masterpiece is exceedingly unlikely. That's just not usually how these things work. And while it's theoretically possible, I wouldn't bank on it. So, long story short, Superfuse appears, for all intents and purposes, at the moment to be a dead game, and while they might update it in the future, I sincerely doubt that will save them from where they've managed to put themselves. Now, normally I would end this with a cheery goodbye, tell you to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz, but that can be a little rough to do with videos like this because the subject matter is so inherently negative, so instead I'll say this. I hope they provide an update soon that tells people the fate of this game one way or another, or they simply drop the much needed updates to this game, even if I don't see it ending well at this point either way. Which is a shame because I liked Superfuse, I was hoping the best for it, I like a good ARPG, and I liked the general premise and aesthetic of this one, but kind of whatever's going on with it, I don't have a lot of faith in the project anymore, obviously. So that's kind of where we're at. Hope you found the video informative at least, but regardless, thank you so much for watching, I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.